When you think of kings, you imagine power, warriors, and crowns. But this story begins with a child, only 8 years old. His name was Josiah, a boy chosen by God to lead a broken nation back to truth. When King Amon, Josiah's father, was killed, the people made his son Josiah king at just 8 years old. While others saw a child, God saw a leader. At 16, Josiah began to seek the God of his ancestor David. While other kings worshipped idols, Josiah searched for the living God. At 20, he destroyed every idol, every false altar, and every temple made for other gods. One day, the priest Hilkiah found something hidden in the temple, a forgotten scroll, the book of the law. When Josiah heard the words, he tore his clothes in sorrow, because his people had forgotten God. Then Josiah gathered all the people and renewed the covenant, to serve the Lord with all their heart and soul. Josiah was just a child, but he proved that age never limits faith, because when God calls, even the smallest heart can change a nation. They called him the boy king, but heaven called him a warrior of faith. Josiah ordered the temple of the Lord to be repaired, the place where his ancestors once met God. Stone by stone, they restored what was once broken, and with it their faith began to rise again. When the book of the law was read aloud to the people, a sacred silence filled the air. Each word pierced their hearts, reminding them of who they were meant to be. Then Josiah stood before his people and made a promise, to follow the Lord with all his heart and all his soul. The land that once worshipped idols now bowed only to the living God. Josiah ordered the celebration of Passover, something Israel had not done for generations. For the first time in years, the sound of worship rose from Jerusalem once more. But even kings who walk with God must face battles. When Pharaoh Necho marched through his land, Josiah stood his ground. He went to war, not for power, but to protect the promise of God. And though he fell in battle, his faith lit a flame that would never die. King Josiah proved that you don't need to be old to be wise, and you don't need to be mighty to change the world. You just need faith. He died in battle, but his faith did not die with him. When Josiah fell, all of Judah wept. They mourned not just a king, but a man who brought them back to God. The prophet Jeremiah wrote songs of sorrow for Josiah, because even heaven grieved the loss of a faithful heart. Though Josiah was gone, his faith lived on. Children spoke his name as the king who obeyed God's word completely. His life became a reminder that even one obedient heart can restore an entire nation. Generations later, people still spoke of Josiah's reforms. He had awakened a sleeping faith, one that no empire could destroy. Josiah's story isn't just history, and it's a message that no matter your age, your background, or your weakness, God can use you to bring light into darkness. Kings rise and fall, but those who walk with God leave a light that never fades. He wasn't born to follow the world. He was chosen to change it. For years, God's temple had been forgotten, abandoned, silent, covered in dust. But Josiah's heart burned with one desire, to restore the house of the Lord. During the restoration, the priest Hilkiah found an ancient scroll, the book of the law. It was more than a book. It was God's forgotten voice speaking once again. When Josiah heard the words of the law, he tore his robe and wept. He realized his nation had drifted far from God, and he vowed, "We will return to him." From the mountains of Judah to the streets of Jerusalem, Josiah destroyed every idol. He burned the altars of false gods and restored true worship to Israel. Before the whole nation, Josiah read the words of the covenant, and the people vowed to serve the Lord once more. Josiah's reign became a light in the darkness, proof that even a young heart can lead a broken nation back to God.